Hello, everyone. One of the goals that I had for creating this channel and sharing videos was to come at you pretty much raw and uncensored. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about chronic illness and the effect that it can have on a person. Now I'm going to be using myself as an example just simply because I only know me and how I deal with chronic illness and what I've experienced and how it has affected me in my life in general. When you have a chronic illness, it really does impact a huge amount of your life. In fact, just about every area of your life is impacted in some way, shape, or form when you've got a chronic illness. Now, the main chronic illness that I'm talking about for myself is fibromyalgia. Now, I've recently had a massage therapist tell me, in his opinion, that fibromyalgia does not exist, that the ailment or illness or chronic condition that is existing in this case is chronic inflammation. Now, whether or not he's correct, whether or not the scientific community is accurate on this, doctors, whoever, the people who do the research, the bottom line is whatever name you choose to call it really doesn't matter a whole lot. What matters is what the individual goes through and how it impacts their life. So in my case today, I'm having a rough day. This is what I would call a bad fibro day. I woke up this morning very woozy. I had a lot of neck pain. I still have a lot of neck pain. The general overall feeling that the only way I can describe it is it feels like a flu wave. It is a creepy wave of changing temperature that starts pretty much at the base of the skull and flows down my back, and it goes through my arms. And the reason I call it the flu wave is because it's how you feel, well, how I feel when I've got the flu and I've got a fever. Now, in the case of when I'm having a flare-up like this, as you can see, I don't look my normal perky self. I look very, very tired. I usually have like dark circles and the baggies under the eyes, because it really takes a lot out of a person. It really takes a lot out of me energy-wise. And because of that, even though I haven't been diagnosed per se, I can certainly say that I exhibit all the symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome. Like at any moment I could be doing something and all of a sudden it hits me like a ton of bricks, the exhaustion. Or I'll just spend a day like today and just constantly feel woozy and drowsy and just absolutely zero energy at all. Just getting up and getting out of bed feels like a major effort. So on days like that, I don't get a whole lot done. If I get anything done, then I consider that a win for me. One thing that's really hard to deal with when I'm having a bad fibro day, when I'm having a flare up, is the antisocial tendencies. And I'm trying to overcome that, and I'm starting with this video. It is extremely difficult for me to get out and socialize, not just because I'm exhausted, but because I feel weak, I feel pathetic, pitiful. I feel like all I do is complain and whine and carry on. And I try not to do that. And sometimes when I go out in public, I'll put on the brave face, and I will do my best to smile and look normal. Um, but when it's really, really rough, people will still look at me and say, "Are you okay? How are you feeling today?" Those sorts of things. I've got to the point now where sometimes when I'm talking to people, if they're asking me how I'm doing, um, I know that a lot of people will sit there and say, "Oh, I'm fine," even though they're not fine. And I can confess to having done that many times myself. But I've reached a point where I just don't feel like faking it, because faking it takes an awful lot of energy too, and I already don't have much energy. So when I'm feeling awful like this, I do cut myself off. I cut myself off from people because I don't want to answer the question when somebody asks, "Well, how are you doing? How are you feeling?" Those kinds of things. "How are things going for you today? What's been going on in your life?" Yada, yada, yada. Because sometimes when you're in that space of just feeling absolutely horrible, then you're looking at life through this filter of horrible. And yeah, it's at that point, it's like, oh, I really don't want to talk to you. I really don't want to talk to anybody. No offense, I just don't feel like it. So it can be pretty tough, let me tell you. One term that I think needs to be stricken from the English language is the term lazy. For a long, long, long time, I believed that I was just lazy, simply because I've had people accuse me of being lazy. And it's really hard to describe some of the behaviors that people exhibit when they think you're lazy. If they're not going to come right out and say that, "Oh my God, you're lazy," they'll say different types of disparaging things like, "Well, I would do this. Well, I would get up and do that. Well, I would, yeah. Well, I've never had that problem. Well, I found that this works for me," yada, yada, yada. You just got to do it. Ugh. And that's hard to deal with as well. And you know what? It has been my experience that the only way that you know anything is if you live it and experience it. And the funny thing about this chronic condition of fibromyalgia is no two people are alike. Yes, we have a lot of symptoms that are common. There's a huge list. And I've sat in educational seminars and workshops and things, comparing notes with other people who have been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and there is a lot of stuff that we have in common. And every once in a while, there's a different little symptom in there that crops up that she might not have, or she might not have, or I might not have. So you really can't, pigeonhole a person and say, well, this is, this is what fibromyalgia is all about. Well, it's too big. It's too all-encompassing. It's just really hard to pin down. is that the fibro today? Is that something else? Is it just being plain tired? Did you just not get enough sleep? And that's another issue too that goes along with the fibromyalgia, is a very difficult time sleeping. For me, it's mostly because I can't get comfortable. There's just no position that's comfortable. So that makes it difficult. And as a result, when you try to manage the symptoms, like with any chronic illness, you end up on medication that you're probably going to be taking for the rest of your life. And I'm not a big fan of taking medication, but I have found personally that even though it may not solve all of the issues, I'm still way worse off without the medication. And sometimes when I think about it, especially days like today, that just seems really friggin' pathetic. So it's been extremely difficult to accept that this is my life. It has been very, very difficult for me to accept it and to have kindness and compassion towards myself, because I've gone through the majority of my adult life being ridiculed, made fun of, tormented, rejected, insulted, degraded, just because I can't do the same things that some other people do. So it's very difficult to be able to take a day like today and say, it is okay to rest. It is okay to relax. You are not being lazy. You need to recover. I've had a couple of things happen this week that has had an impact on why I am having a bad day today. One of them was I hurt my neck just from turning my head. Remember, this is the same person who can walk across the floor and put her back out. Go figure. But I also recently was out of a couple of my medications for a couple of days, and I finally did get my medication, my refills, and today it's finally catching up to me. What is that gap in the medication? I thought the withdrawals would show up like the next day, but nope. It took a couple of days for things to come around and impact me. So here I am. Here I am today, feeling pretty tired, exhausted, trying not to fall into the trap of that whole worthless feeling and the pathetic feelings and so on like that. And just take the time. Take the time to just breathe. Take the time to be kind to myself, to take care of myself, and do what I need to do to just feel better. And thank heavens that last night, yesterday, I made a meal in the crock pot. Did the whole roast in the crock pot with all the veggies and stuff. And thankfully there's enough left over so that tonight we have another meal. And that is a good thing, because I definitely do not have the energy to stand at the stove and cook a meal. And that has a big impact as well. when food prep or preparing a meal is an exhausting task, the end result of that is you don't eat so good, which means nutrition becomes an issue. It means that a regular schedule becomes an issue. And because of that, that can also aggravate your symptoms as well. It's a very vicious circle, because when you're not eating right and you're not nourishing your body properly, that's when inflammation comes in and all kinds of other problems. The struggle with the IBS, that's always a good one. It just aggravates things. The weight fluctuates, shoots up, drops down. There's no way to predict it. It's a mess. So here I am today, being a mess and trying to cling on to that wonderful little term, fuck it, whatever. It's a bad day. Whoopie-doo. Be kind. Be compassionate. Just do what you need to do to feel better. So I hope this was helpful for at least some of the other people out there who may be experiencing some of the same things that I am. Part of this is being able to let you know you're not alone. And that has been very helpful for me as well, knowing that I'm not alone. I'm not imagining this. I'm not crazy. Well, that might be debatable. But this is real. This is as real as it gets. And yeah, you could probably throw many cliches at all of this. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It is what it is. God, I hate that phrase. Oh, that kind of thing. But I mean, that's just the reality of things. So here I am coming at you, raw and real. And thanks for taking the time to listen to me natter on and ramble. And I really do hope that being able to share this will resonate with somebody else who is struggling and can sit back and say, it's okay. It's okay to have a rest day. It's okay to feel rotten. It's okay to just be. Okay, well, here's hoping that the day gets better. And for all of you out there, you have a great day. Bye-bye.